Okay, so hello everyone. My name is RawrOfTheEmo. First time video in a good while. As the time of me recording this, I just finished recording the audio for the next half year of jump review stuff that I do. Um, but I just wanted to make a quick thing, little fun one, minimal editing, just me talking top of my dome by myself. Um, Final Fantasy. I've I think a year ago now, I had finished Final Fantasy 1 and 6, I believe. And by the time of today, I have finished several mainline Final Fantasies. I'm only left with 4 of them, and I'll get to that point when I'm talking about them. But yeah, I've played almost all of them. I think they're all amazing games, and I just want to make a video talking about them. Again, a lot of these videos are, if they're entertaining to others, that's great, but it's primarily for me to document my thoughts and feelings about certain things because I go back and yada yada, whole mess. Like, nobody cares. Let's get to it. Final Fantasy 1. You know what? Let's remove this one. This. These will be the rankings. S, A, B, C, D. S being amazing, A being pretty good, B being mid, like midish, like not mid, but it's all right. C being it's not the best, and D just being bad. That's how the ranking's gonna be. So let's start with Final Fantasy One. I played Final Fantasy One on the PSP version, and I genuinely think that it is a great game. Great game. It's now that I have to think about like my feelings about these games, and having to articulate it, I can't. Final Fantasy One, I had a lot of fun with it. It's really special. Looking back at all the other games that the franchise will end up becoming, there's no way that this game can top all of those. But on its own, from its era, it's still a fun game. I feel like I feel like in the next 10 years, like in a decade from now, I would rather revisit Final Fantasy 1 over Dragon Quest 1. Well, Dragon Quest 1 is very important and it's a great game. I love it. I'm currently playing through the 2D HD remake. I think Final Fantasy 1 is just amazing. Great game. A lot of fun. For its time, I bet Garland was just an incredible boss. Like, that's just a cool guy. And even now, I think he's still one of the better apologies. I think he's still one of the better villains in the franchise. Um, that's a lie. I'm fucking bullshitting. Um, Garland is still really good though. Garland is still a really good villain. It's just that there's better ones out there. Final Fantasy 2. I I really like Final Fantasy 2, and I went in with the same idea as all the other RPG fans and Final Fantasy fans saying that Final Fantasy 2 is not a great game. It's bad. It's its game design is horrible, all these things. I really disagree with that, and it's just because a lot of people don't really like to interact with the mechanics of a game. What I mean by that is that a ton of people just want to level up like crazy, get high leveled, steamroll the game by just like unga boonga physical damage only, and just beat the game. I think Final Fantasy 2 really forces you to think about what stats you're going to want to level up. And I do agree that forcing you into just focusing on certain stats is pretty restricting, and it does get boring. But in the last like 3-4 hours of the game, I really enjoyed, and I saw the vision. I saw the vision for Final Fantasy 2. It's just that the vision was too late. It's still a great game, and I still greatly recommend anyone to play it, but it is one of the weaker Final Fantasies, even though I really like Firion, I really like the Emperor, I love the world. The best way I can really put it is that this game is just Skyrim. Play it like if you're playing Skyrim. Final Fantasy 3, I Final Fantasy 3 is just the best of the NES era. Is the best of the NES era. It has the best mechanic. How to explain this? It's fun. You do get a lot of freedom to do what you want. The freedom that you saw from Final Fantasy 1, where you can run three like three knights and then a white mage, or white mage black, like two white mages and two black mages. Like, that's a lot of fun. Final Fantasy 2 took that away, but with the return of 3, we got to see that with the job system, and that was a lot of fun. It was really cool, but I did get a bit bored. I did get a tad bit bored halfway through Final Fantasy 3. When I had gotten to the Cloud of Darkness and the Crystal Tower, I just wanted the game to end. Not to say that that ending is bad. It was really cool. I liked it. I just don't know. Like, it just did not hit the same for me as like Firion, or Firion and his team going to go fight the Emperor, or Final Fantasy 1, where the Warriors of Light have to do a boss rush to get to Garland. It just didn't. I don't know. It just felt very odd. Um, but yeah, like, I honestly, the there's still all three of these like Final Fantasy games. They're still just incredible RPGs. They're a lot of fun. Um, even though they're old, and they don't match the game mechanics or the storytelling of the more modern Final Fantasy games. They are still pretty good compared to most other RPGs that you would find out there. I would definitely recommend playing these. But for Final Fantasy IV, and with that, like the after years, I have not finished it. I'm currently playing through Final Fantasy IV. I wonder if my Vita can pick this up right now, the audio. Oh, I was currently grinding, but have not finished Final Fantasy IV. So far, I think it's really good. If I were a person back then in the late 80s, early 90s, and I saw the jump from 3 to 4, from not just like the mechanics, but the storytelling, I would have been seated. I would have been full on ready to see what, like, these developers were going to come out with next, because Final Fantasy IV so far is just like an A. It's just an instant jump in improvement. Final Fantasy. Why is Final Fantasy 9 here? Final Fantasy 5 I have not touched. I know nothing about it yet. All I really know is Bart's. He looks pretty cool. I love Gilgamesh. Other than that, I don't think I have the right to rank it yet, so I'll just leave it to that in the future. I'll probably come back and just write like a little comment section, just be like, "Oh, this is what I think." Final Fantasy 6, that's an instant S. Going into it, I had heard so many older fans, old people. I've had seen several older fans of the franchise consider Final Fantasy VI to be one of the greatest games in the Final Fantasy series, and also one of the greatest RPGs ever created. I agree with the Final Fantasy section. I don't know about the greatest JRPGs of all time. The story is great. The characters are incredible. The world is amazing. Kefka is just an incredible character. I love that both Terra and Celeste are so, for the time when female characters were relegated to just like princesses and having to being rescued or being kidnapped and all these things, like it's just these two women who are suffering and they are fighting for a better world. It's it's really cool, and that's not counting all the other like not supporting, but like the entire cast of Final Fantasy VI. It really feels special. Every single As you play some of these characters, they fall behind in their story. For example, like Cyan, where you go into the forest, you do his little mini arc, and that's kind of it until a later future part in the story. That's Even then, I think Cyan is still like an incredible character, even for the small amount of time that the small amount of screen time that he gets. And I think that's kind of what makes Final Fantasy VI really good. Even if the characters don't have enough screen time, they're still very memorable and um, great. And especially for the characters who have more screen time, like example Terra Celeste, you just become instant fans of them. Setzer, Locke, um, shit, like even Gao. I really like Gao, and he's just there. Final Fantasy VI is just it's just a great game. Um, I played it through the Pixel remaster, so it's not um so I it was more easier for me. Um, but it's still a great game. Definitely recommend you playing it out or checking it out. If I'm editing this video, I'm probably not gonna edit this, but when I had gone to Japan, I bought the game physically in box and everything because this is just an incredible game. You have not played a Final Fantasy, why are you watching this video? But if you haven't played this Final Fantasy, you should definitely play six. It's a great game. Now seven, I think seven is just A for me really. This was my first Final Fantasy. Uh, growing up with Smash Brothers, my uh, growing up with Smash Brothers and seeing Cloud being revealed for DLC on Smash 4, I got really interested in him. I had grown up being heard as well that this is one of the greatest JRPGs of all time, the best story in JRPGs, yada yada yada. And I finally got to play it in 2020 during the lockdown. Because funny story, and I love telling the story all the time. Um, Final Fantasy VII Remake was supposed to come out in March, and I had speed ran through it in 2 weeks, just in case I didn't get spoiled because people still didn't know that it wasn't a remake. It was like a pseudo sequel. So I speed ran through the game, really loved it, and I started watching the cutscenes and the gameplay online. I'm like, what is this? But Final Fantasy VII, I do, I can, I do agree that it's iconic. It's a great game. The story's great, but but I do think that there are several more Final Fantasies that mm, are just way better. Again, characters are great. The mechanics are fun. Music's great. The world is great. The lore is cool. I love that scene where Sid and the crew come down from space and he makes a speech. I remember crying to that scene. This game is iconic. This game is iconic, but I do think that people need to accept the fact that it is there are better games out there, not just in around the world, but in its own franchise. That's my opinion on Final Fantasy VII. Yay! And I'm immediately gonna go in with Final Fantasy VIII is not a bad game. I really think that Final Fantasy VIII is an incredible game. It has a great story. It has a great story. It has a great world. I just don't think that the gameplay mechanics of this game are as good as people say it is. Which is funny because you tend to hear people say that Final Fantasy VIII has a really bad gameplay. The game is good, the gameplay is good. It really just needs a better tutorial. that's all that's all it desperately needs. It desperately needs a better tutorial. It throws too much onto the player at once and it gets them confused and it gets them confused, it gets them forgetting things, and they go on to play the game for several hours and they're like, oh my god, like I completely forgot that I can junction these things onto this thing and it will do this thing, like it's just it needs a better tutorial. And I hope like in the future, um Final Fantasy VIII just recently celebrated its 25th anniversary, or was it even 25th? I think it's like its 30th something. I cannot remember, but it didn't get anything. Um and I really hope that in the future they end up announcing a remake, not in the sense as Final Fantasy 7, um where it's like a pseudo sequel, like none of that. I really do think that if they make the gameplay play exactly like 7 remake and just keep the entire story intact, people will come to realize that this is a really good Final Fantasy. I love this game, and nobody can tell me otherwise. The only thing that's holding it back really is that tutorial. You know what? I'm moving it around. I'm putting Final Fantasy 4 back, just so people can see it. I'm putting Final Fantasy 8 over 7. That's right. And you know what? I'm putting Final Fantasy 9 over 8. And I think most people will agree with this. Final Fantasy 9 is one of the better Final Fantasies on the PlayStation 1. It's I had an argument with a friend of mine. We're both big, huge Final Fantasy fans. He is a huge fan of Final Fantasy 9, and I was defending 7, um, because he completely disagrees with anything regarding Final Fantasy 7. He considers it horrible, bad game, bad story, yada yada yada. But he loves 9, and I explained to him that Final Fantasy 9 is just timeless, and that's why it's really good. You can play it at any point in time. Like someone can play Final Fantasy 9 in 80 years and have the exact same experience as someone who played it back when it released in what, 2000. It's a really good game. It's really good. I At first Sedaine is pretty annoying, but he really grows onto you, and I think that is just how most of the characters in this entry are. They come off as very annoying, you don't like them, but they grow on you really quickly. I fell in love with Kuina instantly, but I can see so many people, especially my friend who loves 9. He hates Kuina, but he appreciates Kuina. The gameplay is a ton of fun. I got to play it on Steam, with that, I forget the name of that mod that my friend had given me. Uh, that was an experience. And I think Final Fantasy 9 being that final hurrah to the franchise to be stuck in the medieval ages, because after this, it it changes a lot. Uh, Started with Final Fantasy 1, where it was just the medieval times and like no, not high fantasy, well, yeah, like high fantasy. But after 9, Final Fantasy 10 was more modern. It had more modern worlds, and especially with 10 2. And then we jump to Final Fantasy 12, and it's not really medieval times, but there's like airships and sky pirates and all these things. And then once again we jump to Final Fantasy 13, and it's just sci-fi and all these things. It's just Final Fantasy 9. I'm really grateful of how it is, that it's just the final hoorah to um the medieval roots that this franchise had, um came from, and that it deviated from after 6, or after once it got to 6. um I'm rambling so much. Final Fantasy 9 is a great game. That's all I can really say. It's a great game. You should definitely check it out. Goes on sale a lot. I don't know. I think on console it does, but on Steam it drops to like $8. Definitely recommend you getting it. Especially on Steam, you get the mod. Yada yada yada. It's a great game. Blah blah blah. Final Fantasy 10, hands down, is the greatest Final Fantasy of all time for me, in my opinion. RawrOfTheEmo trademark. I don't I don't know, like it's coming up to a year that I played Final Fantasy X, and well, it's coming up to a year that I've played every single like most of these entries. And while I do have a lot of memories playing through Final Fantasy 1, 8, 9, 6, I think Final Fantasy X had just, someone put it better to me, where if you really want to feel something, you play Final Fantasy X. And that's just true. I don't know why, but it's just true. Final Fantasy X has such an incredible cast, and for it being the first game in the franchise where it has voice actors, every single actor does an incredible job. They, I'm gonna say Titus because that's how I pronounced him playing through it, and didn't find out till way later that it's pronounced Titus. I prefer Titus. Titus, he, something about him just really stuck in my heart. He is such a good kid. Hiding behind, he he's a good kid, but a very emotional kid who hides behind a facade. And I think while playing through it, I got really attached to him because of that. Growing up, getting bullied, and all these other stuff. I it was such a, I don't know how to put it. Like, I really don't know how to put it. I have so much to say about this game, but when it really comes down to it, it's special. It's really special. This is it's a really special game. I really don't know how to put it. It's so special. The music is great, and the characters are incredible. And it's how I was saying with Final Fantasy 9. Final Fantasy 9 is timeless. And I think you can say that for every single one of these games on the S tier listing right here. These are all just timelines. And you can agree, or you can disagree and agree with some of my placements in here. Uh, but all of these are all timeless, really. They all are. You can play these at any era, and you'll enjoy it. But something about Final Fantasy X really feels very 2000s, and that's not a good or bad thing. It's I'm fucking rambling on. Final Fantasy X, just the best way to really put it, you need to play it. You need to check it out. Good thing that this is one of the easier Final Fantasies, and that is one of the things that I can criticize about it. This game is very piss easy. Like, you can probably you can charge all the summons for Yuna. Have every single summon ready to be just dropped, deployed, and you go to a boss. You just like pop every super of her summons. You just beat the boss. That's it. That's really all you have to do. Um, and even if you don't do that, uh, you can just go up, do a little quick strategy with your characters, and boom, you just beat the boss. Really simple. I think the only time that it does get slightly tad more difficult is near the end. That's really the only time that I quote unquote grinded in the game, but that was more less about grinding, more about quickly getting sphere grid, like filling up my sphere grid, which did not take long. I think it took me like 5 hours, which I mean that is a lot, but compared to other RPGs, that's so simple. It's so easy. Um, but yeah, I think Final Fantasy X being one of the most accessible Final Fantasies, definitely check it out. It's one of my favorites. Top 10. Not even top 10, top 5 favorite games of all time. I can pretty confidently say that. Yeah. Um, Final Fantasy X 2 I have not played. I'm currently waiting to finish every single Final Fantasy game before I go into the sequels, and that counts Final Fantasy 13, which I think, which my friend who really likes Final Fantasy 9, he tells me that I have to play Final Fantasy 13, 13 2, and 13 Lightning Returns back to back to get the full 13 experience. No. I think every single game should just be able to stand on its own. And if a game needs a sequel to feel fully complete, um, that's no. So for now, Final Fantasy X is my favorite game uh, in the Final Fantasy franchise. And Final Fantasy X-2 could be trash, but I would not know until probably a year from now. So let's hope it's not that. Final Fantasy 12. Um, this is kind of hard. I'll put it in high A. I really like Final Fantasy 12. Going into it, I thought I was not. I was ready to be pretty disappointed, ready for some pretty boring gameplay and um, some pretty boring gameplay and all these things. Oh, completely forgot to mention. I skipped Final Fantasy 11 because I have not played the MMOs. Uh, I really don't like playing MMORPGs. I think I really don't like that I have to pay for the game and then pay for a subscription. It's kind of dumb. And it's also why I have not played Final Fantasy 14. So, yeah, those. Sorry, I know those are some of the more fond, the one that people are more fond of, but eventually, eventually I'll play them. But Final Fantasy 12, I went in completely ready to not enjoy it at all. I thought I saw a bit of the gameplay. It was like, um, it was all real time. Um, having to use the gambit system, and the one criticism that the game gets a lot is that it's slow. And I was ready for to not enjoy it, and turns out I really enjoyed it. This is the story is great. I think it has to do with the fact that it takes place in Ivalice, and Final Fantasy Tactics is also one of my top 5 favorite games of all time. Um, so I think I think Final Fantasy 12 does get a lot of that like boost of me enjoying it because it takes place in Ivalice. But the gameplay, I really enjoyed it. It's um I think the criticism that I'm about to give to Final Fantasy 13 contradicts my enjoyment of Final Fantasy 12, but it's very, you just put the controller down and you just watch your characters kill the enemies. A lot of people might not find that fun, but the fun is finding out how to make the perfect gambits for each hunt, for each battle. Obviously, starting into the game, you're not gonna enjoy it at all. You have no access, like you have no options, little pool table to mess around with. Um, Basically, the criticism the Persona 3 and Persona 3 Fast gets, where you can't control your party members, so you can't really choose what you want to do, and yada yada. Um, but as you play more, you get more of the tactics, and it gets better. That's the same thing with Final Fantasy 12. You keep playing the game, and you get more gambits, you get more skills, you get more items, and you get to experiment. You get to toss things. You get to um, make a perfect battle system, and it's really cool. Also, I really like the cast. At first, I did not like Van at all. He was, I'm pretty sure I had ranked him as like my least favorite main character, but he he went up there. I think this game is really good. It's very underrated. Balthier and Friend, I think those are my, they have to be top 20, if not top 15 favorite characters in the franchise. They are they're great. I love these characters. Definitely check it out. I do agree though that this game is pretty long, and I exclusively played it in the times two speed up because I played the Zodiac Age. Um, I think that really is the only way for someone to play this game nowadays. This game is very slow. It's uncomfortably slow at times, and I did not like that. I just stayed at the times two because who cannot do it any other way. Now, Final Fantasy 13, I I normally have Final Fantasy 13 at, you know what, honestly, it's like right here. Final Fantasy 13, it got a lot of shit when it first came out, and I think if I was there at the time, coming out of 12, I as harsh as it sounds, I think I would have been completely disappointed. Very disappointed with Final Fantasy 13. It really doesn't have to do anything with the setting and the story. A lot of people criticize the story and everything. Um, I think it makes sense. If you really just have to pay attention, you really need a. Um, you really don't even need to read the codex little stories that they make you pause the whole flow of the game and open up a menu to open up another menu to read the lore of the world. Because if you don't read it, you're not going to understand what the characters are saying and some of the stuff that they're doing. But I think even if you don't read it, it is pretty easy to quickly understand, and um, it's very quick to understand and know, like, okay, this fictional word that they're using, this is about this and that. But the gameplay is really bad. I do not like that. I do not like the fact that I can't get no money. I need to sell every single item that I collect, but I can't sell them yet because if I sell them, I won't be able to get an upgrade like 40 hours into the game. So I need to save all my stuff, but I can't, you don't get gil from killing enemies. So you have to make sure that you're not selling the wrong thing and you're selling the right thing. And it's just it's not good. It's not good. It's not a good game. It's not good gameplay, and I really hate that it is essentially around 30 hours. It's a 30-hour tutorial until you get to like the final three chapters of the game, and that's when the game opens up. And to be fair, the game does open up a fair ton, but I don't think it should have in the last like 30 hours in. Regardless, though, I get it. The whole gang is being chased. They can't be stationary. Um, that doesn't mean that it's not good. It doesn't mean that that's good. It means that it's bad. It's bad. Um, and also, same thing I said about Final Fantasy 12. Final Fantasy 12 is really good because you can just put down your controller and the game plays for itself and you just win. 13 does the same thing too, but it's boring and it's bad and it's not good. Like it's really not good. Um, I don't know. It's just I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I just um it tried doing the same thing as a sphere grid from 10, but it's worse. And it tried doing the same what was it? The same it tried doing the sphere grid and then it tried doing the gambits where you just like pre-assign your characters like okay, Hope is going to be a Ravager and Lightning is going to be a Saboteur and stuff like that. In paper it sounds really cool. In execution, I do not like how it comes out. You kind of exclusively have to play as your magician because otherwise you're the magician is not going to do anything. um Also, before I forget, I did want to mention it's really funny that all of these characters they gain their summon like if it was a persona. And I think for the era, I think uh it was either the same year or the year prior where Persona 4 had come out or was about to come out. So it's really funny. I'm not like I'm not trying to say anything, but you know what I'm saying. Um, you know what I'm saying. Other than that, really, I just don't really like Final Fantasy 13. And again, my friend tells me that 13.2 and Lightning Returns really carries the game. It makes the saga incredible, and I believe it. But Final Fantasy 13 on its own is not a good game. That's really bad. It's a really bad game, and it's only above Final Fantasy 2 because I it has the same issue where Final Fantasy 2 only really gets good near the end, and Final Fantasy 13 only really gets good probably like the last 4 hours. I love Sas though. Sas is like the best thing that has come out from this game, from 13. So he's great. I love him. Final Fantasy 15. Okay, Final Fantasy 15 has I have a really fun history with Final Fantasy 15. It was it was the first Final Fantasy that I really wanted to play. Like I mentioned before, I knew about Final Fantasy through Smash 4 and through Cloud, but I had seen, I believe, at the around the time that this game was coming out or was about to come out, I was a sixth grader, maybe already a middle schooler. But Final Fantasy 15 was a game that just I saw it and I desperately wanted to play it. Um, I would see commercials for it, like on YouTube. I would see videos. I would see the cast driving around in the waste, like not the wasteland, but the desert, and it looked really cool. And I loved how the characters looked. I loved how Noctis looked. He was so badass. I liked the abilities that he had. And I remember back in 2019, so when I was like 16, and I had owned my Switch, I was very close to buying the Pocket Edition on Switch because I just really wanted to play this game. And I didn't get to finally play it until the time of me recording this, almost 2 months ago, um, during my spring break. During my spring break, I had gotten the Royal Edition and got to check it out. It's a great game, great story, fun characters. Um, but I can see why people did not enjoy it at first. Even with the Royal Edition and all its little like benefits and all that stuff, the game does not really feel like Final Fantasy. It's very open world. The way that I told my friends was that this really does just feel like Skyrim. And I feel like the reason why when you boot it up, it says a Final Fantasy for old and new fans. um, I feel like that new fan section is because of that trend where, well, not really trend, but it was more like, Skyrim and Fallout 4 were very popular back then, and I feel like when they had to quickly remake Versus 13 and turn it into 15, they really just went, fuck it, let's just do an open world. And the way that it came out, pretty good. I think it's a pretty good open world. The gameplay is pretty good, and it's a good game. I don't know why, like, I don't really know how to say it. I think older people need to grow up and accept that, like, I think a lot of people need to replay Final Fantasy 15 with Royal Edition, um, because it's great. It's a good game. I feel like I've said nothing about these games really, but these are great games. Even me placing Final Fantasy 2 and 13 like really low, I think they both have their merits and you should definitely check them out. Final Fantasy 16. So, hmm, honestly, Final Fantasy 16 is one of those games where I get why people also hate it. It is not an RPG, it's an action RPG. Um, so a lot of people are just immediately not going to enjoy it because you don't get to do your little ATB mechanics. But something about Final Fantasy 16 is really cool. The game is just cool overall, but how do I put this into words? Final Fantasy 16 is one of those games where you really do come to understand what Final Fantasy is really all about. And I know me saying this is gonna piss off a lot of people who might or might not watch this video because this really is just a random video that's getting uploaded on YouTube with no editing. The second I'm done recording, Final Fantasy 16 is, I think every Final Fantasy is good, even the weaker ones, even with 13. I think every single Final Fantasy game is good primarily because it is not the same thing as the previous game. What I mean by that is we see Final Fantasy 1, it's a average RPG. You have your attack, your magic, all that stuff. Then you jump to Final Fantasy 2 and now you have to level up individual weapons to make specific attacks and magics better. crazy jump, insane jump. If I was a shareholder, this is an insane comparison, by the way. But if I was a shareholder and they just told me like, yeah, like Final Fantasy One just made like a gajillion like quintillion dollars, um, because of how of its gameplay and its story, and then they immediately telling me that the sequel is gonna be so experimental, I would have been completely against it. But they did it. They made Final Fantasy two completely different, and then immediately after Final Fantasy two, they made Final Fantasy three with the job system. That's really cool. It's just you just don't have one specific class. You can just keep switching out and moving things around and seeing what works and what doesn't work. Final Fantasy four, you get the ATV system. You get a more um, compelling story, more deeper. Um, you play Final Fantasy five or Final Fantasy six. It's more, well, every Final Fantasy, in a sense, has been political, but Final Fantasy six very, um, you know, politically driven, uh, saving the world from evil dictatorships. Gameplay is incredible. To make every single character has a unique gimmick. Great. Um, Final Fantasy VII, being a jump to 3D, uh, the materia system. Not only is it a not only is seven a story about um, taking care of the planet. I don't want to use like the eco T word because this video might get like destroyed by YouTube. But they're anti-global warming story, and to top that, it's a story about mental health. And for its time, that must have been very special to have played. Final Fantasy VIII, I think, again, incredible, amazing success from Final Fantasy VII, jumping to the junction system. If I was a shareholder, I would have just shat myself. Uh, Final Fantasy IX, yes, it's a reference to all the other previous Final Fantasies, but it's still its own thing. It's unique, it's cool. ATB systems there. Um, really cool. I really like Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy X, getting every previous nine Final Fantasies, just tossing it to the side and coming in to make new stuff. 12, coming from the success of 10, um, and I guess 11, it does its own special thing. 13, completely going full in on the sci-fi. 15 being open world, and now with 16 being I am so sorry. I just realized I went on a huge ass tangent. But I hope you guys understand what I mean with Final Fantasy 16. It really shows that no matter what, this franchise will just keep evolving and changing, and it will never, ever, ever stay the same. It will always be unique. It would always change. It would always be different. It would always be different. Yes, it will share character names, locations, monsters, stuff like that. But every single Final Fantasy is unique, and 16 is 16 is breaking the mold in a big way. You know, with over 40 years of game spin-offs, all these things, several genres that the Final Fantasy franchise has delved into. But for a mainline series to break out of the JRPG aspect and just being action, it makes you wonder what will come next for this franchise. What's up next? What are they gonna do? What's gonna happen? All these things. with the story also being super dark, more darker, more serious. I think Final Fantasy 16 is just it makes me happy, and I really hope that in the future it doesn't just I okay. I would be glad to see it go back to a JRPG. I think that would be pretty cool, but I would also really love to see what happens next. What next? What will they stick to the action RPG? Will they go back to the JRPG, or will they figure something else? Are they going to do something else? Are they going to do something different? um, but yeah, this is I don't know how to say it really. Um, yeah, this is the Final Fantasy tier list for RawrOfTheEmo. Um, basically what I have to say about all of them. Goddamn, this is a 50-minute video. I'm so sorry if you're gonna watch this. If you have watched this, I'm uploading the second that this hits YouTube. It probably has passed 20 to 30 minutes prior to me uploading this. By the way, like I'm just letting you know that. I don't. I'm just letting you know that. Like that's the second this button this finger click stop recording, I'm gonna throw up like a random trash thumbnail, and there goes the upload. And if you got to watch all this to the end, thank you. I really appreciate it. This is more of a rambling video. I will. I definitely have way more to say about each game, but if I were to sit here, this video would have went from 50 minutes to 7 hours. So no. um, but yeah, that's it. My name is RawrOfTheEmo. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.